Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. When parents are incarcerated, there's very little they can do to maintain their bonds with their children. But cellist Claire Bryant is trying to help. She and other musicians meet with parents and help them write songs for their children. It's called the Lullaby Project. It's a program run by Carnegie Hall's Weil Music Institute. Claire Bryant is an assistant professor of cello at the University of South Carolina School of Music, and she's the director of the Lullaby Project at the university. She's also had a debut album. It's out now called Whole Heart. Claire Bryant, welcome to American Voices.
Thank you so much, Senator Bradley. Thanks for having me.
So growing up as a young cellist, when did you first get involved using music to help others?
Well, I think it was when I was a teenager. I am the product of two very amazing parents who care about people, and they have really modeled that throughout my entire life. I'm a child of adoption. I was very lucky that my parents, when I was 2 days old, they came and scooped me up from a hospital in Little Rock, Arkansas in a picnic basket. And I think just being an adopted person, I think I do really care about people, and I care about connections with people, and I want to know their stories. And it's just kind of been who I am. And when I was a teenager, I had the opportunity growing up in a small town in South Carolina to start a chamber music series at our local arts center. And it was a chance for me to invite my young chamber music friends and peers to collaborate together and create music together. And through chamber music and this sort of teamwork in a musical setting, I went through my schooling at San Francisco Conservatory of Music and the Juilliard School, and I eventually found myself in a 2-year fellowship at Carnegie Hall called Ensemble Connect, which is all about creating a 21st century artist. And that means an artist citizen in the world. So that became a path that I didn't know was available to a young artist like myself at that time. And it really became my life passion. How can I help people express themselves and create and collaborate through a music making experience?
And so tell us a story or two about connecting with people. I understand you've done some work in the Bronx in public schools.
Yes, as part of my fellowship at Carnegie Hall, I was placed in an elementary school in the South Bronx for 2 years, and I would go as a resident artist 2 days a week for 2 years. That was a really amazing experience. Number one, I had never been to this neighborhood in New York, and I don't know that I ever would have had the opportunity to connect with the people of this community if it weren't for this fellowship. I was paired with a public music teacher, and together we would create lessons for the young string players in the class. And I would always try to perform for them once or twice a month so that they could hear my cello. And I remember a particular time where I chose to play the opening of the famous Elgar Cello Concerto, which was made famous by the great cellist Jacqueline Dupre. And it's extremely passionate and epic opening. I started with it and I played to the very top of the scale, and one of the children burst out crying in tears. And it shocked all of us in the room, and I was so worried. Oh, Marianne, what happened? She just said, "That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard in my life." It was this raw, visceral reaction that it reminded me why music is important. impact that music can have, and we just never know how it might touch somebody.
It goes directly to the soul in some circumstances.
It really does, and you don't even need to know anything about it for it to impact you. This just was a raw, emotional reaction to the sounds that she was experiencing.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's that mysterious, amazing thing about music, that it's a language that we can all connect to and that we all have an opinion about. And I think a lot of times we don't realize that music is inside of all of us, even if we're not necessarily a practicing musician. We are all experts at the music that we love. We say, oh, that's my favorite artist, and that this is why this is my favorite artist. Or I'm not really into this kind of music because of this. It doesn't connect with me. I think sound has a channel, like you said, straight to the soul, straight to a part of our human spirit that nothing else really can tap into.
So let's talk about the Lullaby Project. How does it work? You go into a correctional facility, and what happens next?
The Lullaby Project is usually done in 3 segments, and it can be in any community venue where a parent or caretaker is there. So yes, correctional facilities are a wonderful place to facilitate a Lullaby Project because there is a great need for the mother to connect with their child. So we will take in a team of musicians here at the university. I am so lucky to be able to offer this experience to both faculty and students as a team. So we go in and we have 3 sessions in consecutive weeks. And then at the end of those 3 sessions, we have some lullabies that are written by individual participants along with these musicians. And then we go into a recording studio and record them. So, yeah, I mean, the first day we have a plan of action, and we always, never really know what we're going to end up with at the end of the session. But it usually starts with a share where we get to know each other. We know our names, where we're from. What style of music do you like? What's your favorite artist right now? So we kind of ice break a little bit. And then we usually start with an exploration of what makes a great song. Just that question. What makes a great song? Oh, a hook, a melody, lyrics, a great performance. And then we'll start to kind of home in on what a lullaby is. What are some aspects or characteristics of a lullaby? So it's sort of a group exploration followed by a group songwriting process so that we model for everybody what's going to be happening in these sessions. And then we start with a free write where the mothers can essentially start to think about maybe telling a story about a special moment that you had with your child, or your words to describe your baby's personality, or nicknames for your baby. And then this eventually leads into the lyric writing process, which is step 1.
So you write the lyrics first, and then you put the music to it?
Yes, and that's always the really fun process because we're really trying as the facilitators not to go in and say, okay, here's the melody, here's how it should go. We're trying to say, okay, can you speak those words if you are going to speak them? We have our lyrics ready. Now, if we're going to speak them in a rhythm, how would that sound? And so we usually start with sort of notating and dictating a rhythmic spoken pattern to the lyrics.
Can you give me an example? Maybe you could just tell us about My Little Shining Stars.
My Little Shining Stars. That's a great one. So She started as sort of a letter, and this was Brittany, one of our participants at Camille Graham Correctional Facility. And so we would say, okay, Brittany, the first line was "To my little shining stars." So could you just say that for us in a natural rhythm that sounds good to you? So, "To my little shining stars." So she sort of paused before shining stars because that was sort of the most important part of the lyric, "To my little shining stars." So we would then have a student dictating the rhythm onto a sheet of paper, da 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 da. And then from there, we might say, okay, Brittany, can you just sing it for us, how you might hear it in your head? And more often than not, "To my little shining stars," something will come out. And it might not be fully formed. It might be "To my little shining stars." And then we might say, okay, do you want to try to have a little bit more contour to that? Do you want it to go up or do you want it to go down at the end? So it's a really messy process. You have to be flexible in the moment, and there's a lot of editing happening in the midst of all of this, sort of trying things and trying not to judge things in the moment, but actually live with them for a little while. And then we, at that point, try to start harmonizing around the melody.
So let's listen to My Little Shining Star. We'll play a clip.
Great.
To my little shining stars, I love you both, no matter where you are. To my little shining stars, I love you both, no matter who you are. To have and to hold and let my love unfold. Just know my love stays with my little shining star.
Claire, that is really, really beautiful.
Thank you. Well, those were all students at the University of South Carolina performing on that, and they helped orchestrate it and arrange it. And they were part of this process alongside Brittany and the other participants at Camille Graham.
So Brittany wrote the words, right?
And she helped to write the melody, and then she got to say, I want guitar on this. She fell in love with the cello, this participant. She had a real affinity. So they get to choose the instruments that they want to be in their lullaby. And then we fully orchestrate it and arrange it before the recording session.
To my little shining stars, I love you both, no matter where you are. To my little shining stars, I love you both, no matter who you are.
And how many people are involved in the we?
We had a team of 12 students and 6 faculty. And I have to say, this teamwork, I mean, it's like playing basketball. We are a team, and also being able to have a team of faculty and students work together is a really unique opportunity and learning, and being able to witness the transformations and growth of our students and see them become leaders in this process, all of whom had never been to a prison before, inside a prison. So this was a very new experience for them, and it was very rewarding for all of us.
Well, let's hear another one. I just want to hear, I wish I could hear 15 of these. Let's hear another one called Mama's World.
Thinking of you keeps me awake. Dreaming of you keeps me asleep. Being with you keeps me alive. Being with you brings joy to my life. This is only a moment. Please
Claire, I mean, when the children receive this recording, they have to feel the love that went into it.
Absolutely. And for these women, especially the incarcerated women that we work with, this is so important to show that care and that love because they're not at home right now. And you heard in the words there, this is only a moment. Please don't forget me. Feel my arms around me. You are the best of me. I mean, that is powerful.
This is only a moment. Please don't forget me. Feel my arms around you. You are the best of me. You are loved. Your smiling face makes troubles go away. To hear your love, to know that you are loved.
It was so clear to me that these women, this was such an important thing for them to be able to do for their children.
Little Shining Star in Mama's World, incredibly moving. How do parents react when you record the song and play it back for them?
It's extremely emotional. I think to hear something from the seed of something that that we started on day one, and then 3 sessions later we have a song, and then to, of course, if we were not in a prison, we would be able to invite the participants to the recording session, and that is done when we're doing these in other community venues. But then to hear a professional product like that, and then to be able to send it home to play for their children, it's emotional.
Be bold, I'll hold you within my soul, never letting go. I'll love you today, tomorrow, forever. This is only a love letter. Mommy loves you. I love you, I love you. Your head turns around at the sound of my voice. You make my eyes moist. You fill my heart with so much love. You mean so much to me. It's amazing that a body so tiny could produce a love so huge. Be bold, I'll hold you within my soul, never letting go. I'll love you today, tomorrow, forever. This is only a love letter. Mommy loves you. I love you, I love you.
Did you ever leave a correctional institution in tears?
On Saturday, I did, and I have many times. I just finished a big project at the largest maximum security prison here in South Carolina. I finished it on Saturday. It was another songwriting project called Music for Transformation, run by my ensemble called Dakota. And we worked with 37 incarcerated men, and that was a collaborative songwriting process where in 5 days they wrote 18 new songs on the theme New Beginnings. We had a concert on Friday at the prison for other members of the facility, of their peers, and of the staff and correctional officers. And then on Saturday, we had a reflection session where we got to be in a group and really share what the experience was. And we've had this program at Lee Correctional for 10 years now. So we really, these are my brothers. I consider them my family. It's such a meaningful opportunity to celebrate the humanity in all of us that for incarcerated people, they don't get to experience on a daily basis.
So Dakota is where you work with men, but they write songs too, but not just singing songs, but why? Here, one of them actually wrote a string quartet.
Yes, we have now been working at this particular facility for now I've said 10 years. And so some of these men have, a lot of them play instruments. Of course, many are singers, but we have about 3 composers in this program who are now writing through composed music. And one of them wrote a string quartet. This was back in 2019 during our project there. And one of the most special moments I've ever gotten to be a part of was we performed a movement of a Beethoven string quartet. And right afterwards, we started playing his string quartet. His name is King. And he had never heard it before. And just instant tears running down his face to hear his music. He'd heard it in his head, of course, and the men, all of his peers, kind of came around him and, put their hands on his back and just, King, wow, like what a remarkable thing, and what a productive, experience to be able to do something good and to put your creativity down on paper and to be able to then hear it come to life. That's why we do this.
That must have been incredibly moving for him. He never heard the notes he put on the score played.
Right.
He only heard it in his head.
Right.
And then you played it.
Yes, and we didn't even tell him we were going to play it, but as soon as we started, he knew it. He knew it was his piece. Huh. It was like a quartet was being born right in front of our eyes by this person who had never put pen to paper for a string quartet before.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And they're all amazing, musicians. And it takes courage to be creative. And it takes courage, especially in a correctional facility, to put yourself out there.
Sure.
I applaud it.
In all your work using music to help others, what are some of the moments that stand out for you, that left real impression on you?
I think one of the things that leaves a big impression on me is doing these things, meeting different people from different walks of life, people who are struggling in their lives, and being a vehicle for their to be able to express themselves and to be able to share something about themselves and to tell their story through music. That is such a powerful thing. One of the first workshops I ever did was in the South Bronx at Beth Abraham Hospital. And that was in partnership with Oliver Sacks's Music Institute for Neurologic Function. This was the hospital that he started that inspired the movie Awakenings. And so we were paired with people who were experiencing dementia and Alzheimer's and other brain disease and dysfunction. And one of the participants that I was paired with was named Jethro. And he was not doing well. He had just had a leg amputation. He kind of just was you could tell didn't have a light in his eyes. And throughout the week, we were writing songs together and making music together. And it happened that he started to sing this song called Carolina Moon, and he had a beautiful voice. And it turns out that through this song, we both found out that we were from South Carolina. We were both from South Carolina. And so we created our own version of Carolina Moon and then performed it at the concert at the end of our workshop. And at the end, we have this wonderful picture. I treasure this picture of him kind of reaching out to me, and the light was back in his eyes. I mean, and that wasn't because of me. That was because of music and of the music. And he was recalling this song from his memory. I remember that particular workshop was on musical memories. So it wasn't necessarily we were writing new music with these patients. We were just using music as a vehicle to, kind of find ourselves again.
Joy.
Bill Bradley. We're back now on American Voices. We're continuing my conversation with cellist Claire Bryant. She's the director of the Lullaby Project at the University of South Carolina, a project run by Carnegie Hall's Weil Medical Institute. So Claire, you played for people in Bellevue Hospital in New York City too, haven't you?
Yes, we did sort of a musical tour of all of the wards at Bellevue Hospital in one day. Dakota, which is my ensemble, we had an octet of musicians. So it was string quartet plus bass and some winds. And so we were playing Beethoven septet. We were playing some Bach. We had some arrangements so we were giving concerts in different areas of the hospital. And then we went to the end of life ward, which I had never been to an end of life ward. And, we chose different selections to play there. And then one of the patients was a 16-year-old girl. And she was in bed with her mom. And her mom said, it's her birthday today. Could you play Happy Birthday? And it, wow, like probably the most important concert we were giving was Happy Birthday to this young girl who was at the end of her life, so sadly, so tragically. And you just never know the impact and where someone is in their life and what music can do in that moment. And they just hugged in the bed and we played Happy Birthday to her. Yeah.
You have a new debut album out now. It's called Whole Heart. I understand this project came out of the pandemic. It
did. I personally, as an artist, went through a creative depression. I really did not. It was the first time in my life that I had stopped hustling, because as an artist, you really have to hustle to make it work, and it just was all it just was empty. And finally, in March 2021, I decided to do a recital here at the university. Of course, nobody could be in the audience. We were still virtual then, but I did a virtual recital, and I decided to do it with music written by my friends. And so this has seven works written by composers who are my friends and who are writing great music today. And so I played the recital, and somebody on YouTube said, "This should be an album," on the chat. And then I thought, okay, yes, it should. And so I found courage inside myself to make my very first solo record.
Wow. And your piece 7 on the new album is really beautiful. Well, tell us about that and what it was like to play.
Yes, that is the heart of the album. This is a wonderful piece by Andrea Casarubios, who's a cellist in New York City as well. And she wrote it about the 7:00 hour during the pandemic. So it's a pandemic piece. It is really to honor the vital workers and to thank them for everything that they did for us. But it starts with this beautiful sort of haunting wind chime type sound. And it's about community and about unity and about coming together, even as strangers, to survive, something very challenging and very difficult. And it's one of the most, I think, beautifully written for the cello, because she's a cellist, so she gets it.
And then about Delta Sun.
Yes, Delta Sunrise is a gorgeous piece written by a violist and composer named Jessica Meyer. She wrote this piece about her first trip to New Orleans, and she wrote it on her way home on the plane. So instead of writing a journal entry. She wrote a piece, and it's a very short 2.5-minute sort of ode to travel and wanderlust.
And on this album, you didn't write these pieces, but you chose them.
Yes.
But there is something in there about time or about just being and experiencing. Is that a theme that's always resonated with you, or did the concept of just being take on new meaning after the pandemic?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it might have taken on a new meaning for me personally, because as artists, we're going from here to there. We're never saying no. and now I think many of us through that period of isolation kind of realize what really is important. Is it so important to take every gig? Is it so important to break our backs to just do everything possible? No, it's important to maybe grow some tomatoes, which is what I did during the pandemic, to connect with your family. So I think time has taken on a different meaning, and it's more precious than ever.
Well, listen, Claire, I just want to thank you for coming on American Voices. And I mean, you use your instrument to help people who otherwise wouldn't have access to musicians or recording equipment or songwriting, and that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for coming on American Voices.
Thank you so much, Senator Bradley. It's been my pleasure to talk with you today.
I've been speaking with cellist Claire Bryant. She's an assistant professor of cello at the University of South Carolina School of Music, and she's also director of the Lullaby Project at the university. It's a project run by the Carnegie Hall's Weil Music Institute. She's also had a debut album. It's out now called Whole Heart. To find out more, check out clairebryant.com and visit us on Facebook. It's American Voices with Senator Bill Bradley. We're also now on Instagram, so I hope you'll check us out and follow us.
My little shining stars, I love you both, no matter where you are. To my little shining stars, I love you both, no matter who you are.
Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.